Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the interview of the co-host episode of the Cognitive Disillusions podcast, where we address the current issues of today with brash humor, skepticism, or aggression to invoke critical thinking in the masses. We take your tightly held beliefs, even our tightly held beliefs, everyone's tightly held beliefs, mash them up with current events, politics, and religion, and then throw them to the fires of skepticism. We magnify your so-called logic and then blow it all up. There is no green zone of safety for a lack of critical thinking here. This is episode 0, and I, Al, am your co-host. I'm here with Allie and, later, Joel, and we are your tormentors. Hey, Allie, how you doing today? You are live.
I'm good. You?
Very good. So we're going to be doing the basic interview today and covering just some questions so that our audience can get to know you. So how would you like to be addressed for this podcast?
Just by Allie.
Just by Allie. All right. So what kind of religious background do you have? And by that I mean, what religions were you raised in or around?
I was brought up as a Jehovah Witness. And then
Jehovah's Witness.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I went to Christian with friends throughout high school. And then I went to a Pentecostal church.
And what were the differences that you saw in those religions that you were raised around?
The differences? I'd say they're most the same, but they're all very judgmental.
Okay. And are there any things that really stick out about the religious indoctrination that you faced growing up?
Oh boy.
Any situations that come to mind growing up that really stick out for you?
The Jehovah Witnesses pretty much shunned my mother. I believe because she was there by herself with 3 girls, and
you don't know the details specifically of that.
I don't know the details. My mom just said she felt like she wasn't welcome there, and she didn't belong. That she that need to go to church because there's too many judgmental people there.
Gotcha. Are there any things that you avoid today because of your upbringing from back then? Any things that were so negative experiences back then that you don't do them or participate in them?
I won't go to churches. I basically quit believing.
Okay. And you're obviously not a believer to date. What would you call yourself? Do you hold yourself to any label?
I would consider myself an atheist. I do not believe anymore.
Okay. And have you heard of the Dawkins scale?
No.
Okay, so the Dawkins scale is a 1 to 7 scale. So 1 being you're completely religious, completely believe in a God, and 3.5 is you're kind of on the fence, and 7 you absolutely assert that there is no God. Where on that scale would you fall?
I do not believe unless you show me proof.
Okay. You kind of broke out there for a minute right at the beginning.
Oh, I said I'm a 7. I do not believe.
Oh, so you actually assert there is no God, or you're so close to a 7 you see yourself as 1?
I believe there is no God.
Okay.
People just have false hope and want to believe in something.
Gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to clarify to make sure that the audio came through. Are you still close to any religious people in your family or friends that you grew up with?
Actually, don't associate with any family or any of those past friends.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is there a reason for that, or you just move away from them? What?
Family issues. It wasn't the church stuff.
Oh, okay. So non-religious reasons.
Non-religious.
Gotcha. Do you still have any supernatural views? If so, what are they, and why do you still believe them?
I believe there's something out there, but the question is what? I think there's ghosts. Paranormal. They walk among us.
Okay, and why do you believe that?
Everybody's stories, the radio shows.
Okay.
Do you want me to go into the thing?
Sure. We'll have to edit out the initials there, but that's okay. We'll edit it out in post.
Okay, so I was working my job one night, patrolling the floors. I was on the 10th floor of a building. There's not a soul in this building. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Alright. There's not a soul in this building because back then everybody had to sign in and sign out. I know for a fact I'm the only person in the building. I'm doing my door checks, locking the doors, and walk in, and all of a sudden I hear this thumps. You can't mistake filing cabinets. It's like somebody picked them up and slammed them back down and opened the drawers and slammed them shut. I took off that floor and booked it out of there and never went back.
Oh, wow. And did you see anything, or did anything stick out, or was it just the noises in the...
I didn't see anything, but I heard it.
Okay.
You cannot mistake a filing cabinet. It loud metal crashing down on the floor.
Okay. Did you ever go back to look and see if something fell over, or...
Nope. Because that floor was completely empty, minus filing cabinets, actually.
Okay.
It lined the whole floor.
Okay, so that still brings up the question on why you believe that it was a ghost, you assert?
I'm assuming.
You're assuming. So...
I have honestly never seen anything, but I've heard lots of stories from people.
Okay, so you view anecdotal testimony as evidence for something.
I've heard lots of noises, but like I said, I've never seen anything physically.
Gotcha. And when you're pretty skeptical when it comes to deities or gods, but yet you still hold a lower standard of evidence for ghosts. Why is that?
I believe there's something out there. Something obviously created the universe, but the question still remains, what?
Okay, so you're a first cause kind of person. You believe that maybe there's a deistic type of thing out there, maybe a god or
I
a
think
super
there's
intelligence
something
or
out
something.
there. Something supernatural.
And what leads you to believe that? I mean, where does that come from?
How would everything be created? Mountains, rainbows, the universe, planets. Did they just appear out of nowhere one day?
Well, no, there's actually scientific evidence on how stars form and how planets form, and mass cosmology back to the Big Bang, but previous to the Big Bang we really don't know. We're still learning about the universe. But as for stars, we know how they form. We've actually watched stars form. We know how that works. We know how the chemistry works. We know how planets are formed from secretion disks surrounding stars. We don't know the abiogenesis of how life began on this planet, but we know how it evolved from the start point.
Life, mammals.
Yeah. We know how all that, through evolution by natural selection, we know how life evolved after it got started, and we're still working on how life physically got started from the chemical soup, but I'm sure we'll have that answer soon one day.
Somebody started it somewhere.
Fair enough.
The question is who or what?
Well, that goes back to philosophical standpoint that obviously you hold that I don't.
What's your take? Where are your beliefs?
In regards to what in particular would you like to know?
Let's start with supernatural. Do you believe in the paranormal?
No, I don't assert that there isn't a paranormal, but I do hold the extreme skeptical position of until evidence is provided, I don't believe it. I haven't seen or heard any evidence that would lead me to believe it.
Okay, this takes us back to the whole God, and what about poltergeists and people being the exorcists and priests going in for somebody who's possessed?
I don't accept their claim. They don't provide evidence to convince me that there was anything supernatural occurring, and two, that they've done anything that's affected the supernatural in any way. I don't have any evidence of the supernatural, so I don't accept the claim until they can provide proof of it.
Do you think they're just mentally challenged individuals?
It's a possibility. Some of them are psychotic, suffering from mental disabilities, stability, acting, attention. It could be any number of reasons, but we would have to go case-by-case basis on evaluating each one. I can't make a blanket statement that affects all of them because it could be different things for each person.
What about objects in houses that get moved and nobody's clearly moving them?
I've never seen that, so I couldn't make a claim either way. But I would reserve my judgment on the skeptical side by saying that person believes they had an experience that they can't explain, and that's as far as I would go with it. If, say, for example, a salt shaker on a table moved 3 inches or flew across the room while I was in the room, I would have to go, well, I don't have an explanation for it. I would look for an explanation, and if I couldn't come up with one, the skeptical and intellectually honest position would be for me to go, I don't have an answer for this, so we're going to mark it as, I don't know what happened. That was weird, but I don't have an answer, and I would have to leave it at that.
Fair enough.
I mean, I hold the same position for deities, gods, if you will. I hold Krishna and Vishnu to the same level of standards that Yahweh, the Christian God, I hold. I reserve judgment on those because I've seen no evidence to convince me, one, that a God exists, let alone a theistic God like those two assert. So even in the deistic God form, that a God exists outside of our universe, created it and started it and then went hands off, I still don't see that as plausible because there's no evidence for it. But a theistic God that interacts with the universe, answers prayers, watches you masturbate, all that bullshit, I see no evidence for it. So I don't accept the claim, and no religions have, or people have presented evidence to convince me to go that route. Does that make sense?
Back with the whole prayer thing. Not a single one of my prayers have ever been answered. And they range from, on the scale from 1 being low, 10 being extreme.
You hold this level of skepticism towards a deity, a God, by saying a God hasn't presented convincing proof that its existence is substantive through your prayer and whatever.
If there was a God.
But yet you hold this, what appears to be a lack of skepticism towards quote-unquote supernatural stuff, which a deity technically is, part of supernatural beliefs. So you hold a belief of ghosts or poltergeists, etc., but you're not holding them the same rigid standards that you do a deity. It confuses me.
I just think there's something out there.
So you just want to believe that there is. Is that what I'm getting?
There's so much stuff that has gone on. I'm going to believe on my end there's something out there. Is there a God? we'll never know unless we're provided proof.
Well, both of those would be an accurate answer. It'd have to be true, and it would have to be proof. So I agree with you there. That's pretty much all the questions I had for you so that the audience could get to know where you were, and I wanted to dig in a little bit to get a little bit more information. I think we've got enough for the audience. What do you think?
I think we're good.
Okay. So we've already burned up the 20 minutes that I had allotted.
Oh.
So, yeah, it goes by quick, huh? So I'm going to end this broadcast. We're going to go silent for a minute to allow the audio to change over, and we'll be good to go. So just hang tight. We're going to close out this interview.
So you think you can break me, but you